everyone. Welcome to Be a Week Zero Hero Tips and Tricks for Starting the New School Year Off Right. Presented by me, Joy Blake. Who am I? Well, my name is Joy Blake, and I'm the Instructional Technology Specialist for Chicago Public Schools. I've worked as a STEM coach and a fifth grade math and science teacher since 2005, and I've been using Google products in my classroom since 2014. I'm currently a Google certified trainer, a Pear Deck certified coach, a Screencastify certified coach, and an Apple teacher. I also have my own website and educational consulting business called Blake Basics. Here's our table of contents. First, we're going to talk about what you should do before week zero. So that means what should be your plan to get set up, get organized, and prepare for week zero. So week zero is typically the first week of school. So I always call week zero the first week of school when students return. What we're getting ready for is the first week, but also the week before. There's a lot of planning you have to do. And then we're going to get ready for week zero and beyond. And we're going to focus on what we're going to do after week zero. Like, what's our plan for planning and preparing, not just for week zero, but for the entire school year. So let's talk about our learning objectives. Today, learners will be able to gain an understanding of techniques to effectively begin the school year. Learners also will discover digital resources to use in their classrooms. Now let's talk about these digital resources. Within the presentation, there are tons and tons of hyperlinks. So I highly recommend for you to click on anything that you see me click on, any pictures, any underlined words, anything of that nature, because those are links that you can use in your classroom. Secondly, if it is a Google Doc or any Google product, I've set it up for you to be able to make a copy of it. So if there's something that you want to use, just make sure to click on File, make a copy, and now it's yours. So in my presentations, I always like to talk about what you're going to see, how you can use it, and why I know it works. So in this presentation, you're going to see me clicking on links, talking about classroom management, discipline. You're going to see me showing examples that I use within my own classroom, and you're going to see me doing some demos. How you can use it is, again, everything has a link. Just think like this. Everything has a link. So that's for you to access and make your own copy of, and then edit it using your own classroom. And why I know it works? Because I've been a teacher for over 15 years. I've taught 5 years in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 2 years in Chicago at a charter, 3 years in Buffalo, New York, and I've currently been working at Chicago Public Schools since 2014. So I have experience not only as a first-year teacher, but a first-year teacher at a new school, which you could be a veteran teacher, but be at a new school. And there's a lot of adjustments that go with that. So I'm going to be offering all those perspectives in this presentation today. So let's get into before week zero, where we're going to get set up, get organized, and get prepared for what's to come. So let's start off with this important quote. It doesn't matter if you build a thing right if you aren't building the right thing. We could waste a lot of time decorating our classrooms, making copies of random stuff, but in the scheme of it, if it's not what we actually need, we're going to have to start over and we're wasting our time. So the focus of this session is to help you build your school year right, starting off on the right foot right before it starts so you're ready to go. Every teacher needs a week zero to-do list. These are the things that typically you have to do that are kind of like school related. Your principal might direct you to get these things done. And typically for me, they kind of threw me off because I mentally came in thinking, oh, I'm going to get my desk arranged. I'm going to get the books organized in my room. I'm going to decorate my room. And then all these other things came to me that I had to turn in. So this slide is basically talking about those outside things outside of your classroom that you need to consider before week zero starts. So first and foremost is sub plans. This really threw me off at a lot of the schools that I went to, but the schools would ask me to turn in my sub plans before school even started. I was at one school where they required that we turned in our sub plans for 3 days of being absent before school even started. And I had to include the sub plan, all the copies for all the students on my roster and my sub folder. So be mentally prepared that you may have to create sub plans before week 0. So for this to help you out, I've included a sample sub plan template. This includes the information that I use for my sub plans. And as you can see, I had to do, this was for 5 days of sub plans. So each school is different, and your principal might have other requirements that they're going to ask you to do. Don't forget to check your rosters. That's one of the first things I recommend. You can use your rosters for locker assignments to set up student passwords. And this is a great way to see how many students you have, what you're working with, and you can plan it out. Because if you don't check your roster, you're not going to know if you have enough desks. And I've been in schools where I didn't have enough desks in my classroom. So you want to make sure that you check the roster and use that as much as possible to help you be organized. Create your schedule. This is something that your principal might encourage you or require you to do. They're going to give you a blanketed schedule, which will give you like an outline of the day, but they're not going to break your schedule up for you into time requirements. So a lot of times I found that I would be asked to create a distribution of time schedule, which is a schedule that looks like this, where you break up, like for instance, I was a math teacher, I had a 90-minute block, and I was asked to break that block up into time sequences. So I use this for remote learning, but I had to do the same thing when I was teaching in person. So this is how it is. But basically what you're going to do is you break up that 90-minute block into like how it's going to look, like when is the do now, when is the exit slip, when is whole group instruction, small group instruction, or your exit, or whatever, your closure, your exit slip. I broke it up into my prep period, my lunch. I had to break it up for science since I was a math and science teacher. And it's just like a rough draft of your day. Like if your principal walks into your classroom and does an observation, they kind of can know, okay, from 8:30 to 8:45, Ms. Blake should be doing small group instruction. So you should mentally prepare to have this together before week 0 starts. Also, keep in mind your curriculum and grade book. Like that, this is important. Like, what is your curriculum? What are you teaching this year? What does your school use for instruction? And also, some schools may ask you to have your grade book set up ahead of time. So I know for me, we had to have the percentages within our grade book, like homework. We had to have a percentage in for homework, participation, classwork, assessments, and projects. So you have to think of those things like ahead of time, because it's important to kind of have your grade book set up, because you can be telling students in the first week of school and parents, this is how I grade you. This is how you're assessed, etc. We all know we need procedures. That is extremely important. You want to think of your procedures ahead of time before week 0 starts. So I've included 2 examples for you. This first example is just like an example discipline plan. So I thought of what my expectations were, what were my non-negotiables. So if you did any of these things, these will result in you going to the principal, me contacting your parents, and some form of write-up. Then also, not every behavior can be a write-up. So you have to I thought of my steps. If you choose to do the unexpected, which means you break one of the expected behaviors, first you get a warning, then we might take action. Your seat could be you could lose your seat, go to the refocus area, and then if we're still having issues, then it's time for a parent call or you need to get sent to the office. But pretty much it teaches students what their learning choices are. You can stay with the class, you can move to the refocus area, you can go to a buddy room, or you can go to the administration. But this is your choice. Like your behavior is a choice and there's a consequence for said choice. But also it's important for your discipline plan to include your incentives. Like I do reward positive behavior, and I want students to know that this is built into my classroom, and also parents. So as you can see, I have the parent sign as well as the student. So this is something that I send home on the first days of school. I also included an interest inventory. This is always a fun activity to do during the first weeks of school. And then a sample parent letter that you can choose to use with your students as well. And also, here's an example of my procedures. I'm really into procedures. So I actually took the time to write out what I wanted the students to do for every component of my classroom. When they come in, what do they do? When they get their binders, how do they get them? When they do their do now, when you see PDN, that's their please do now. Like first, they get greeted, they get their PDN, they get their calculator, they get their binder, they sit down. So it might seem like minuscule to think through all these procedures, but the more you think through, the more you have a plan, the more you map it out, the more prepared and smoother things will go for you. And you come first as the teacher. So this is just an example of something that I did in my classroom. Also, don't forget, it's really important to get those signs ready, especially before week 0. Label everything. If you have a drawer that has scissors, put a sign on it. If you have an entry procedure, make a sign that shows the steps for the entry procedure. If you have an exit procedure, write it out, make a sign. If it's a way you pass out papers, if there's a workstation, anything that you could label and give students a sign about, it's worthwhile. Bus routes. I used to have a welcome sign, so just get a ruler, tape some paper to it, and put your name on there saying Miss Blake, room 225, because on the first day of school, students don't know who you are. And even if they do, there might be a new student. So if you're holding up that sign, the parent and the child can easily find you. If you haven't used clipboards, get clipboards, especially before week 0, because there's so many papers and things to manage, and you want to just like have easy ways to organize it. So I had clipboards for my rosters, attendance, my discipline chart, a homework clipboard. I mean, any even I think I had my own schedule on a clipboard. Anything that you need to quickly reference, use a clipboard. It helps, it's effective, and you can quickly look at it, and people don't have to know that this clipboard you have actually is a script that helps you keep track of your day. So use clipboards. I love them. I also recommend use duct tape to organize your boards within your classroom. Duct tape is colorful and it's cheap and it's easy to remove. And once you stick it on there, you're done. So I know for my school, a lot of the schools that I worked at, I had to have my board set up in a certain way. I had to have the date and agenda, the objective, the essential question, maybe a challenge question or something, but I just use duct tape to divide everything up, and it's cheap and easy and colorful. So, getting further back into the space is important to map out your space. Extremely important. So, I've included a link to the space by Rebecca Lewis here. She's a consultant that literally helps teachers plan out their classrooms for the most like effective usage for learning. So, it is a thing, it is important, and it's something that you should think about. Your space is where you're going to be like 8 to 10 hours a day. So you want it to be smooth, peaceful, and work best for you. So keep in mind, stand in your classroom, envision what you want it to look like. If you're a brand new teacher or a new teacher to a school, you're probably going to have to clear clutter. Unfortunately, teachers do leave behind books. They leave behind worksheets. They leave behind materials that you're going to have to clear and figure out where is it going to go, either within your classroom or within the school. You want to figure out your areas. So I always had specific areas in my rooms. Like I had a refocus area for students who need to like get back on track. Maybe they're having a behavior issue or they just need a break. So I had a refocus area. I had a supply area where they got scissors, rulers, markers, crayons. I had my area. I always had 2 teacher areas, one in the front where the smart board was, and one in the back for me to eat lunch and grade. Most importantly, always try to set your classroom up so that you're the closest to the door. In one school, I made the mistake of making the front of the room, the door was in the back, and the front of the room was in the front. This caused a lot of problems because kids could be playing at your door. You really can't see what's going on. And it's just helpful just to be as close to the door as possible if you can. Also, I always had an area for tech because if you have a Chromebook cart or a laptop cart, you got to have a safe place where kids can't trip over the cords and where you can easily access it. You want to have a storage area where, again, if you have a classroom where it was a teacher who was before you, you got to put all that random stuff somewhere. And for me, after being a teacher for 15 years, I had tons of my own stuff that I that I had collected. So you want to have a storage area and a work area. Where do the students work? Keep in mind your classroom might come with other materials. Like if you're a science teacher, my classroom came with tons of stuff for science experiments that I had to figure out where it was going to go. So you want to map out your classroom. If you need more help about it, this website here and link here, classroom floor plan, literally helps you plan out your classroom. And keep in mind, for your classroom, your school is going to have non-negotiables. There might be certain posters or anchor charts that you have to have up. There might be like other type of bulletin boards you might have to have. Mentally prepared. You're gonna have to probably have a generic first day, first week of school bulletin board that you're gonna have to do. I always recommend going to the Goodwill. There's so many materials there that are cheap, easy to use. One I always use was tablecloths and sheets. So for tablecloths, those are great for covering bulletin boards. They don't fade. Also, sheets can be colorful, easy things. That usually a twin size sheet is usually the exact size of a bulletin board at a school. So that's an easy way to cover a bulletin board and it doesn't fade and you're done for the year. There's some great places, like I'm in Chicago, but usually a lot of big cities have something for teachers. Either when I lived in Buffalo, New York, it was a place called the Teacher's Desk where you could go in and get materials. Just search, just research if there's anywhere within your city that gives away like teacher materials and supplies. So the Creative Chicago Reuse Exchange, it is awesome. They're having a teacher back to school supply drive. I literally got my desk that I have right here that I'm sitting on from there, and it was only $50. Like there's so many teacher discounts and things out there to help teachers. You just have to research it. All right, let's move on. So when you're setting up your classroom, keep in mind 25% of students need glasses. So you want to make sure you set up your classroom that everybody can see the important components, especially they can see you and the board. 5% of students are going to be disruptive. It's just, this is how it is. So you want to make sure that you have an area for them to refocus, kind of like reset themselves or take a break. 75% of teachers have entry and exit procedures. So that lets you know it's important to think through how do they come in and how do they exit, because how they come in can set up how they are for the entire rest of the class period. And how they exit could also set up their day. So you want to really think about how do they come in? You say 1, they stand up, 2, they push in their chair, 3, they put their hands to the side, and 4, they turn to the side, and 5, they line up. Like whatever your routine is, you want to think it through so that the students have quick cues to enter and exit your classroom. 21% of teachers rearrange their classrooms. I don't know if this is accurate because I feel like I rearranged my classroom quite a lot, especially when you're first learning the students. Some students will come in quiet, but then after Labor Day, they're all of a sudden talking all the time. You're going to have to figure out who's friends with who, and you're going to have to change it up. Also, it's important to rearrange your classroom to reset the feng shui of the classroom. So I always reset my classroom like quarterly, just to give everyone a new feeling. Seating chart. Let's talk about the seating chart pointers. First and foremost, the easiest way, in my opinion, to set up your room is to number your desk. You can just get a Post-it, some clear tape, stick the Post-it to the desk, cover it with clear tape. Of course, there's going to be kids who are just going to pick away and pull the tape up, but that gives you, it takes a while before they start doing that. And that also can be a way for you to teach your students to respect school property if they're pulling up tape and stuff. But I would recommend numbering the desk, so then you can easily say if someone's having an issue, go to desk 12, especially if you see that that desk is open. Or on the first day of school, I would have index cards, number them to match the desk, shuffle them up, and just pass them out to the students and say whatever number's on your card, that's where you're going to sit for today. So that's what I recommend. I really don't label desks with student names. because I've had older students, and you don't want to, once they see their name on there, they kind of start thinking that's their property. Then if you have to rearrange it, you have to rearrange the whole desk. It's just a lot of extra time. So I try to use numbers. Draw out your classroom, your seating chart. One, it helps you to see if it really works. Two, you can make a copy of it for your sub plans. And three, I always recommend having a blank one that you make copies of, so that if you have to change it, you can quickly like rewrite names in different spots, and it just works out smoother. You want to make sure you have a lineup system for your students, so that students slide desks a lot. You'd be surprised, and it's not even intentional. So you want to have a way for them to like straighten back up their desk quickly without it seeming like they're messy. You just want quick systems to straighten up desks inside the desk and physically, so that your room can stay clean. And I recommend naming the sections or rows within your classroom, because that's an easy way to help students to line up. Like you say, row 2, line up, or row A, line up. That just helps them know location. Because even though a student might seem like they know what's going on, they're still trying to learn your room too. So you want to map everything out so it's easy for them to find what they need to do. When students know what they need to do, that reduces behavior problems, because sometimes they're just confused or they don't know what to do, so they start to talk. So think everything out. I use flexible seating. It saved me a lot of time and headache. I didn't have as many power struggles, and I didn't have as many like students could felt like empowered, because students love choice. Everyone loves choice. So let students have choice. Like, you don't have to fight every battle, and you don't have to control everything. Sometimes a kid might have had a bad day. They might have been arguing with another child during recess, so they want to pick somewhere else to sit. That's okay. Like, as long as you have in place like regulations and kind of rules for flexible seating, students need to understand picking your seat is a privilege. It is not a right. So make sure you have these are the ways that you keep your seat and you can pick. These are the ways where I choose your seat. And usually I had a sign that said, Miss Blake's going to choose your seat if you're talking, you're not getting your work done, you're off task, things of that nature. You can choose your seat if you're on task, you have your materials and ready to learn, things of that nature. I included a link here for you where it says use flexible seating if you want to learn more about it and more techniques connected to it. For me, for the first week of school, I always use rows and columns, but I put 2 desks together. So I would make like 2 desks together, and that would be like a row, instead of the way this is kind of set up is as individual rows. I also used the U, and that was a great seating arrangement. I've used the combination. Use these, especially if you're like, I want to change my room up, but I don't know how. Like, this is a great way to start. Again, I mentioned the flexible seating rules. It's important if you're going to use it. Also, don't use flexible, not literally like where they can pick their seat, but there's a lot of cool seating options. Like, some kids want to sit at a table. Some kids want to sit in a beanbag chair. Some kids want to sit in a roly-poly seat. Some kids want to sit on the floor. So have flexible seating options, not just where they pick their seat, but they pick where they work. Again, when a child has choice, they're more applicable, and they're more. It's a higher chance that they're going to do what you're asking them to do, because they're comfortable, they feel safe. So here's an example of some rules you could potentially use. And again, here's some more information about flexible seating. Just click on this link and learn. So you got to think of your classroom management plan. It's important. I like digital ones because I can walk around the room with my phone, and the majority of them have an app. Now, I used to use Class Dojo a lot within my classroom. I found that it's more geared for smaller children. And if you've been at a school for a long time, and the students have as well, I found that the student would be like, because I was a 5th grade teacher, the student would be like, I used Class Dojo in 2nd grade. Like, why are we still using this in 5th grade? It's kind of babyish. So that's why you have to kind of think about when you're going to use it. But Class Dojo is awesome. I also like Class Craft. This is a great classroom management system. It's geared towards older students, 6th through 12th graders. I use it with 5th graders, but they're able to create their own avatar, pick outfits, they get a pet, they have powers, they can go on journeys and quests. I mean, it's a really cool website for behavior management. Added bonus, I included a build your own aquarium. This is something you would have to create yourself, but it is free. Basically, what it looks like are the students are able to have their own aquarium where they put in their own little fish, and they can buy fish from your fish gallery. The fish have a cost, so this is connected to, like their behavior, and they can pick their own backgrounds, and it's all 100% digital. But kids love showing off their aquariums. I included a student example as well. So here's this student's example where this is their aquarium. They got a badge. So this is a fun, kind of free thing. You can make a copy of this if this is something you're interested in and integrate it into your classroom. But my top three: Class Craft, Class Dojo, and the Build Your Own Aquarium or something similar. You could even do like Build Your Own Zoo, like Build Your Own Farm. Like, these are free incentives that kind of spark students' creativity. Also, you got to partner with parents before week 0 starts. Don't wait till school starts to reach out to your parents. I do not recommend that. Typically, they're going to have on the roster the parent's name and number will be on there. It might not be accurate, but you can at least start by reaching out. I love to use the Remind app, and what I like about it is it sends a text to the parents for you, and you can just add the parents in yourself. You don't have to wait for the parents to accept and join your class. You can just enter them in. If you don't want parents to know your phone number, use Google Voice. It's free, and you can forward any like calls through your Google Voice number to your personal phone. So you'll still get the call. It just, the parent just won't be able to know that it's know your number. The only thing with Google Voice is sometimes it can be weird, and I should say the area code can be weird. So it might not be like whatever city you're in, it might not be the area code of where you live. So that's just like one little caveat, and you can inform your parents of that so they don't ignore your calls when you call. I've included a sample welcome letter for you to use. I like this one. It's kind of colorful. It's different from the norm. I put my picture in there. You can use this. Remember, just go to File and make a copy. Entire presentation, it's yours. I also included a sample parent log. At some of the schools that I've worked at in the past, you had to have a parent log because as a teacher, you're going to be responsible for attendance. It's just a part of the game. So if kids are absent, your principal may be looking at you like, did you call the parent? This child has been absent 5 days in a row. Did you call? So having the parent log, I used to have to turn mine in. So you want to have a parent log just to cover yourself and make sure you're doing everything that's asked of you. Here's some sample newsletters. That's something you're going to have to create before the first week of school. You're going to want to have that newsletter that goes out to the parents, whether it's a meet the teacher letter, any form of meeting you, getting to know you is great. I love S'more. It's not fully free, but they do have a free version that actually goes a long way. Like, you can see analytics, you can see who opened it, you can share the link. And the S'more templates are very colorful. They're not just like a bland template. Outside of using S'more, another great resource that's free is Google Docs. Google Docs has a lot of templates that you can use in your classroom on a daily basis. If you just go to docs.google.com, they have a whole template gallery right here. So if you click on the template gallery, you'll see they have templates for essays, for reports, for book reports, class notes, lesson plan template. They also have letters. They have resumes, recipes. But if you keep scrolling down, you'll also notice that they have newsletters, and they're pre-made, and you can just like add in your information. So that's another resource to use for your newsletter. Now, there's still even more to think about. And as we all know as teachers, there's always something to think about. There's always something on your list because this is the one job where you can't predict what's going to happen from day to day. And there's always something that you have to do until, I guess, summer. So the first thing you need to think about is indoor recess. What is your school's plan for indoor recess? What is your plan for indoor recess? So some schools, all the kids go to the gym or they go somewhere else. Other schools that I've been to, the schools stay in your classroom and you are in charge of entertaining them. The school will typically make up that break. Sometimes it will, sometimes they won't. But you need a plan for indoor recess. You also need a plan for if there are specials, essential classes, what electives, whatever your school calls them. But you need a plan for if art, music, gym, or Spanish are canceled, or some schools don't have specials. So, what is the plan for that? How do you allow students time to be creative? And sometimes you're the one that has to come up with those activities. It's very important to think about technology. You might have to bring your own technology to your school. So, you want to make sure to test your technology, make sure all the cords are there, that it's charged, that it works, that if you have a document camera, that it connects to your laptop properly. You want to test all that stuff out before the first week of school so that you're not caught off guard. Keep in mind, if your school is using laptops, which every school is using laptops now, you're going to have to assign those out to students, manage who has which laptop, and manage their passwords. I've included a link here for you to use that it has a digital classroom management like strategies and techniques. Click on that. Okay, now that we talked about technology, let's talk about COVID. It's real, it's a part of all of our lives, and every school has certain COVID protocols. You want to make sure that you have those, and you want to make sure you have a plan of how you're going to implement this into your classroom. I highly recommend that school supply list should be more than just paper, pencil, scissors. You should be including some COVID related things to keep your classroom clean, similar to hand sanitizer, Clorox wipes, tissue, things of that nature, that Lysol spray. Like, it can't hurt to have those things on your school supply list. Remember, I mentioned the books a little earlier, but whatever curriculum your school is using, there's going to be books tied to that, and you're going to have to be the manager of those books. Are you going to number the books and then give each child a number? Are the books that you can write in, that this child can write in? If that's the case, you're going to have to take a day during week 0 to pass out books, get them organized, get student names in. But you want to have a system in place prior to week 0 about your books, or about, like I said, science materials or any type of materials you may have. You want to have that stuff kind of organized before week 0 begins. We all know there's a schedule, but there's gonna be a lot of delays. There's gonna be late students. There's gonna be teachers who aren't there yet. There's gonna be a lot of delays. And so you really need to think about what's your plan if, for instance, the school assembly is 15 minutes late. Like, what can you have your students do instead of just sitting there awkward, like, oh, I thought we were going to leave now. Now I have nothing for them to do. You want to think about what will you do when there's delays in the schedule. And keep in mind, the week before week 0, typically is filled with professional learning and training that your principal's going to have you go through. So don't go in thinking, oh, I'm going to get my entire classroom together. I'm going to have a full day to do my classroom. You probably won't. So you want to make sure that you manage your time before week 0 starts so you can get as much done, so you can feel as much prepared as possible. I included a picture of a copier and a bus. And the reason for that is, make your copies early. All the teachers are going to be competing for that copy machine. Even though I know we're all in the digital age and all this, people still are making copies. So you want to make sure that you get there early enough. If you have a full week, don't wait till the day before the first day of school to make copies, because everybody's going to be there and there's going to be a line. Also, make sure you know the bus routes of your students and understand how transportation works at your school. So I always recommend for teachers, take breaks. I know it's hard. Your list is so long. You're not going to get to it, but make sure you take breaks. Take time to eat. One strategy that I use is Pomodoro. I love it. It's 25 minutes on, 5-minute break, 25 minutes on, 5-minute break, 25 minutes on, 15-minute break. And then you just keep starting over. But it forces you to do other things, which actually like get you out of your seat, prevents you from having like back pain because you're actually taking a break. Because I know I would work for like 4-hour stretches. I wouldn't eat and it would kind of hurt me in the end. So it's important to take your breaks and use bunching techniques. So for instance, break your to-do list up into bite-sized pieces. Nobody has an entire meal and eats it just in one big, just takes a plate and just eats it. That's what some of us are trying to do as teachers. Instead, we need to break our plate up into bite-sized pieces so that we can gradually work through it and get things done. So make things into manageable goals. So now let's talk about what are we going to do during week 0, which is the first week of school. Here's some great activities, ideas, suggestions on how to handle your week 0. So the main focus, in my opinion, of week 0 is really just trying to get to know your students. You're trying to get to know them. They're trying to get to know you. You're not going to know each other in the first week. I mean, when you date somebody, if you date someone for just like 1 week, you don't know them. It's the same with your students. It takes time to build relationships. So don't expect that it's going to be easy right away. But the more you think about all the different types of students that you're going to have, and there's going to be students who are multiple, like you might have a student athlete who's a leader and a loner. Like there are going to be different personalities. If you want to know the typical student personalities, click on this link here. It talks about students and their personalities and what to expect within your classroom. The first day is important. I recommend just keeping it simple. Go through and introduce yourself, go through the school-wide procedures, go through your classroom procedures, expectations, the schedule, grade, and policy. You're not going to overly entertain them on the first day. You don't want to give out too much information because you might have some students who still aren't there, and you just want to keep it simple because a lot of things are going to be off. Like the schedule might not be as crisp as you might have thought. And I discovered that usually I spend a lot of time passing out school forms, collecting school supplies, and I would have a whole bunch of activities planned, and we might only get to like one activity just because the time goes so fast, and it's a lot of things you have to get in order on that first day. I've included here for you a sample orientation. I usually did this every first day just to go through the information. Just like when you have a job, jobs require you to do an orientation on the first couple of days. That's how your week 0 should be. It should be focused on getting students to understand how to navigate and be within your classroom. It's not all about fun. It's about them learning how you work and how the classroom works. So this orientation I used for my parent open house, and then I did it again on the first day of school. It's okay to repeat information because it takes 3 times sometimes for someone to actually grasp what you say. They have to hear it 3 times. So that's why, so here I have like about me page, I have contact information, things of that nature, school communication. And this is what I go through on the first day of school. Having your expectations is vital, especially for the first week of school. You don't need all 9, but you need to have at least 5. One of my favorites is be prepared and ready to learn. It covers so many bases. If a child doesn't have their pencil, you can say, Jonathan, you're not prepared and you're not ready to learn. I need you to get your pencil. Someone's playing with somebody's hair in line. Excuse me. You're not prepared, ready to learn. Keep your hands to yourself. But the main thing I want you to catch from what I'm saying is I'm always referring back to my expectation. There's always that kid that's going to say, I didn't do nothing. Why are you just talking to me? You always say, yes, you did do something. You are not being a team player, or you are not on time. You came 5 minutes late to class. Because the only way a child can correct their behavior is if they know what the behavior is that they're doing. So always consistently go back and reference your expectations before giving consequences. So in my opinion, I give a verbal warning instead of saying, stop talking. You just say, right now, we need to be focusing in a quiet place right now. We're taking a test. So I'm going back to my expectation and they understand like what's going on. I've included for you also, this is my week zero sample, like kind of how my week is broken up in the first week of school. Am I doing all these activities? No, but you could use some of these activities for you to use. I even included my first week of school lesson plan that I think I used in, 2019. And you could make a copy of it and use it any way you see fit. The first day of school, though, again, it's important to intro yourself. Maybe you have one icebreaker like two truths and a lie. Like that's an easy one. It's fun and it's a way to get to know each other. And maybe one activity. Practice. These are the things you're gonna need to practice the first day and every day until the kids get it, which is lining up, entering and exiting the room, going to their desk, the what's the bathroom routine, and any other transitions. So these are some things I always forgot about, but you're going to get a lot of school forms that the school is going to require you to pass out. You need to have a system. How are you going to collect those forms? How are you going to keep track of who turned in the form and who didn't? And you might have your own forms too. So you want to have a tracking system as well as like, what is the consequence for them not turning in the form? Also, kids are going to come with tons of school supplies. I bought my son's school supplies yesterday, and you want to have a plan of how are you going to collect them? Where do those school supplies go? So then it seems more organized. Remember, you might have to do breakfast in your classroom. What are you going to do with all that milk? Yikes. And then there's attendance. How are you going to monitor that? How are you going to incentivize attendance? Some schools, really, attendance falls on the plate of the teacher of keeping up with it, encouraging it. So I included an attendance bingo activity. This is an activity that I did that incentivized like our attendance percentage. So if we had 89% or higher, we got to roll the dice and then put a number on. And then depending, like we were at 89, maybe we got one roll. If we were at 95, we got 5 rolls. If we were at 100% attendance, we got to roll the dice 10 times and put it on. And once they have 10 in a row, they actually get a small incentive. Kids love this, and it was like easy for me to do. So I recommend like using attendance bingo to keep your attendance percentage up. I've included a sample classroom syllabus for you. If you know how you want to have your classroom set up and it's really much set up the way you want, I would recommend doing a scavenger hunt within your classroom. It's fun. And kids like searching for things, even if it's in the most basic way. Like I talk about, like, what college should I go to? Where's our bathroom vest at? Where is the refocus area? Like, and it basically like gets them moving around and gets them learning about their classroom. So if yours is set up, like let's say your first day of school is on Monday, your classroom set up on Thursday, you could make this and have this as one of your activities for the first day of school. I included some extra stuff like an interest inventory. Use any of this, to your discretion. Also, remember your activities need to be accessible for all, especially in the first weeks of school. Any child that gets any type of services, whether they're a diverse learner, maybe they have speech, or maybe they have English language learning services, they're probably not going to get that the first week of school. So you want to make sure that either your activities are accessible or you have like plan B activities to differentiate for students at different levels. Like one year I had a 5th grade student who was at like a kindergarten level, and I had to accommodate them during the first weeks of school because they weren't going to their special education classes quite yet. So you need to be prepared for that. Typically on the first week, and it's always on Wednesday for me, I always teach about malleable intelligence. Malleable intelligence is the concept that your brain is a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. So when you have struggle, that's productive struggle. And you're actually making your brain stronger. It's like the concept that people aren't born smart or dumb, but the more they practice, the more they work at things, the better they get. So if you want to use this slide deck, please feel free. But it actually encourages students, especially students who might have had someone knock down their confidence. Like I was a math teacher, so I had a lot of students who had a lower math confidence because somebody told them they weren't good at math, and they pretty much believed it. So malleable intelligence is a way to boost the child's intelligence, confidence in themselves, and let them know that it just takes more practice. Just like If you're playing basketball and you're on a team, your coach is going to make you practice layups until you get really good at layups. It's the same concept with learning. So that's one of the things I always did during week 0. I included an article. I use this article every single year, a notes template where they can fill it in as you're teaching about it. So use any of this for week 0. And then also I included a bonus, which is a daily report template. This is great to use for once you start having behavior problems, because you are, and you may have to have a behavior plan set up. So this is great for a child to use to kind of keep track of their behavior as they transition through the day. And you could even set it up like if they have like 5 goods, they get a treat, or they could take this home to their parent too. Like if a parent wants to know how their child is doing on a daily basis. I also included a first parent-teacher conference template. I know it seems far away, but it'll be here before you know it. So with this template, the student hears all the assignments that were in the grade book for quarter 1. The child had to put in the grade they got or put in if they were missing it. Then they had to reflect on their science grade, reflect on their math grade. Maybe if you have these things, they could put in these percentages, and then reflect like what's their goal for the next quarter? What do they want to work on? And then they sign it and the parent signs it. This is a great thing for students to talk through during parent-teacher conferences. It alleviates a lot of angry parents, because the parents will be like, well, wait, you knew you had a D. So this might be news to me, but it's not news to the student. And you really don't want to have a parent come to parent-teacher conference and they don't know that their child is failing. That means you really haven't been reaching out to that parent. Like whenever a child is having issues, call. Like if it's an issue, think about the sandwich model. Most people need, for one negative, someone needs at least 3 to 5 positives to like get over that negative. It's the same with parents. Parents want to hear that their child's doing good, that you care about them, and then you sneak in like, oh, they're talking too much, or they're not turning in their homework, so that they know like you don't only see their child like in a negative light. So keep that in mind with parent-teacher conferences and just talking to parents in general. Whenever I called, I did like monthly calls and just said, hey, this is an update. So then they can kind of be like, whoo, and they're not calling because my child did something. For my very, very first day teachers, or if you're new at a school and they have like a lot of things you have to remember for the first day, I recommend scripting this out. As I mentioned earlier, the clipboards, I would have something like this on my clipboard because it helps me remember what I need to cover during that first day. It's a lot you have to remember. It's okay to script it out, type it out, and have it on a clipboard for you to go through so that you are on top of things. So this is an example of my first day scripting. The first week, I typically would give like a Google form quiz. Now, keep in mind, if your school's technology isn't set up, like some schools might not have laptops set up until October. Like that's how it is. So if any digital activities, before you take your time and effort to create them, confirm that the laptops work, the Wi-Fi worked, and you can pass them out to students. But this is something that I did with students, and I might not have gave it out to them during the first week, but it was a great thing for us to do to get them acclimated to their laptops. And it was literally only about like things we covered during the first days of school. Also, it got them in the routine of knowing on Fridays we do tests. Something else, this is a project I do usually in the first month or so, but it's called Determine Your Own Grade. And students are able to determine or choose which activities they do. Based off of how many they choose, that's the grade they get. So if a child chooses only to do 7 out of the 10 activities, then they get a C, like, and they can stop. Like it's their choice how many activities they do, but you'd be surprised how many kids will do all 10, like just to get it to know for a fact they have an A. Like a lot of students really enjoy it. Again, I love scavenger hunts. Like have them do a scavenger hunt of their math book or of their reading book. Like they need to get familiar with it. And those are some of the like simple activities that I added to like my first week, Determine Your Own Grade. I had diagnostics. They had to set up their binder and their notebook, and it saved me time from doing it in class. If you have older students, they kind of can handle this. I know my fifth graders could. So this is an example of something that I did. Another great first week of school activity is, what do you want? You just get a big poster board, and you hang them all around the room, and there's just a question on each one. The question is, what do you want our classroom to look like? What do you want our classroom to feel like? And how are you going to contribute to our classroom? And you give the child 3 post-its, and they go around and put their answer up, and then they can go around and see what their other classmates have done. And you should do it as well as a teacher. Or you can even make a poster that says, what do you want our classroom expectation or rules to be? And it's a big poster, and they just put post-its on it. Those are easy, quick first week activities that kids really like to do. So that's the first week. I always do in my control, out of my control, this activity. Just click on the picture and it'll tell you how to do it. But students trace their hand, and then they have to write the 5 things that are in their control, which is on their hand. And then outside of their hand, they think of all the things that aren't in their control. There's always that student that thinks that you, as their teacher, they can control you or they can control their classroom. That's not the case. So it kind of helps them understand, like, you're not in control of this space. But also it helps you to show, I'm not in control of you. Like, I can give you suggestions of what you should do, but it's up to you to do what you have to do in this classroom. So this is another great first day of school activity. I've included tons of first week activities that I do every first week of school. Like, this Jamboard is interactive. You can have students do that. I use Google My Maps, where they create their own map of like their favorite restaurant in the city, or they create their own map about their favorite places to go. And it's a great way for you to get to know them and them to get to know you. I love All About Me activities. I also love the classroom bingo. Like, kids like classroom bingo a lot. It gets them out of their seats and they're able to get to know their classmates. In order for them to get bingo, they have to get all the signatures. So as you can see, like, they have to find someone who's an only child or someone who loves pizza. And what makes it more fun is if you as a teacher participate and they have to get your signature, because then they can learn more about you as well. Here's more interest inventories, but one is math, one's reading. This one's actually bingo. It's a digital bingo where you can play bingo and create it. This Unit 0, I love this. It's a new thing. I just discovered it. And it talks about like the very basics of what you do during the first week of school. It's a video, but I think it has a resource that you can actually use as well. I included a 1-word story template. This is something new, but basically each child gets a slide. They have to find 1 word to describe themselves, 1 picture to describe themselves, and use 1 slide. And this is teaching them how to work collaboratively together within a slide deck. So this is a great activity as well. Another beginning of the year, but I'm new to the computers, is the All About Me activity. This is digital, where they have to all go into the same doc, but they have to put their name, their picture of themselves, their email address, favorite food, superhero power. This is a great way for you to monitor, like, who's deleting someone's picture, who's messing with other people's stuff, and teach digital citizenship. So here's some activities. You can go through all of them in your own time. I hope they help. Most importantly, during week 0, we got to talk about classroom management. I love the book Teach Like a Champion. It's an exceptional book. It changed my life. I discovered this book after I had been a teacher for 5 years, but it really helped me to like fine tune my craft. And I've included a link here. It's like a synopsis of the top techniques to use, but these are my techniques that I use in the beginning of school and always. 100% is where you require 100% of the students to be on task. So if you say, I need everyone to get out their red folder, everyone gets out their red folder, and you wait and make sure that they get it out. So 100% is when I give a direction, 100% of us follow it. Precise praise is instead of saying, Johnny, good job. Thanks for being so quiet. A lot of kids don't know what it means when you're saying, oh, Johnny's quiet. So you need more precise praise. Like, I like how Johnny is sitting face forward, hands folded, with his pencil out, ready to learn. Like, that's precise praise. And that helps a kid who might not know what they're supposed to do to know what step they need to do. Like, oh, she didn't praise me because my hands aren't folded. Let me fold my hands right quick. Also, right is important. It increases the level of rigor within your class. Don't accept almost right, only accept right. You're gonna need to practice. I always reference this as a coach. If you were a coach, you wouldn't just tell your basketball team, okay, shoot a layup, and then when they miss, it's just like, well, we're never gonna shoot a layup again. No, you would have your team practice layups consistently until it's almost like a habit. They can do it with their eyes closed. That's the same with your classroom. You have to practice things. If students come in too loud, you have to stop and say, oh, hey, I think we need to work on our entry procedure. Let's practice it. You don't have to yell at them, be quiet, you're too loud. No, that just means that they need to practice it. It's something they don't quite have right, and you want to make sure that they get it right by practicing it over and over and over again until it's to the standard that you need. Remember, don't let students opt out. As a teacher, you don't get to opt out. You don't get to say, oh, I'm not teaching you today. So a student shouldn't have that option. Everybody is working. Everybody's working towards a goal. Threshold is important. Greet your students when they come in. Everybody likes when people say hi to them, and everybody remembers when somebody doesn't speak to them. You do. So speak to your students on a daily basis. Again, this goes similar. Name the steps. If you want students to get out their math book, you want to name the steps. So you can say, I want you to get out your math book, add a level 0, and turn to page 86. Like, think of everything you want to see and put that in the steps. If you don't want the students to be talking when they're getting out their math book, then it's important that you talk about add a level 0. Don't just say get out. If you just say get out your math book, they might get out their math book, but they might get out their seat, talk, because you didn't name those steps. So it's important to name the steps. When you write, everybody writes. So everybody writes is, again, similar to no opt-out. We're all doing, if I'm doing it, you're doing it. We're in this together. Cold call your students. The popsicle sticks always works, but students need to know that you're not only going to pick on kids who raise their hands. Everybody is a valuable member of this community and contributes. I say don't give warnings. I have a 3-year-old. I give a lot of warnings like, Bella, you're going to get time out but you don't want to keep giving the warnings. It's like, just give the timeout. Like, it will stop the behavior and it'll let students know, like, you're serious about consequences. Because if you continually give warnings, that's going to diminish, like, your behavior plan and discipline system, and kids are going to start testing you. So you want to just be consistent and not give out warnings. And normalize error. It's okay to make mistakes. Show students that you're human, you make mistakes, apologize when you make mistakes, and let them know it's safe, because mistakes help us to learn. Like, if we didn't make mistakes, we wouldn't be able to grow. So one thing that I've always remembered is it's okay for a student to fail during the learning process, but it's not okay to render someone as a failure. And I learned that from Dr. Victor Rios. So you don't want your students to feel like failures, but you want them to know it's okay for us to fail because we're learning and we're going to get it right. And we're going to get it right next time. Your classroom's going to have daily rituals that you're going to have to do on a daily basis. Maybe it's a morning message. Maybe it's taking attendance. Maybe I use the weekly forecast on Mondays because it helps students know what their week was going to be. And maybe if you have like a STEM challenge on Friday, that might encourage a child to come to school that normally wouldn't. Or if you say, oh, on Friday we have a quiz, the children know like what's coming up. And then again, at my schools, we had to do social emotional learning morning meetings where we talked about, maybe one month we're talking about building school community. Another month was diversity. Another month was how to be a strong leader. I've included templates for you to use. When I'm talking about the morning message, this is what I did every single morning. We talked about any announcements, what our prep was, or essentials class, what our theme, SEL theme was, what day it was, what's our attendance. Maybe this is a great way to recognize students who are doing an exceptional job in your class, and you just do it every single day. Sometimes I would start with a fun picture. The New York Times has a great website called What's Going On in This Picture. I included the link here, but they have really fun, surprising pictures where students get to guess what's going on, and then they actually reveal it. So these are great things just to start your day off, get students talking, and follow a routine. Uh, I think if you're using Google Classroom, it's really important to go through the pieces of the student classroom. Like, what are the parts? I included some example, like ways to set up your Google Classroom. If you need help with that, that's right here. But all the components, all these components that I'm showing now are important for students to know and know how to navigate, especially view your work so that they can get their missing assignments and they can show their parents what they need to turn in. Here's some more forms that you can use with your students. Keep in mind that if you use the student questionnaire, you will have to give it out as is. If you want to be able to change it, you're unable to edit this. So you would just have to kind of like make your own Google form and take the questions. But these aren't editable and you can't make copies of these, but you can just use them. Also use humor. I mean, we all like to laugh. We all like to have fun. Like, what does 10 plus S equal? Tennis. So we all like to laugh. We all like to have a good time. And it's okay to laugh at yourself. That actually makes kids feel more comfortable when you don't take yourself so seriously. Also, remember, like when a child is having like a slight behavior problem, sometimes humor will like walk them back off the edge. And it's been proven that when a child smiles, it releases like more positive energy within them and can kind of like make them feel better. So smiling actually does have literally a positive effect just by smiling. So use humor. It can't hurt. And then remember, as a teacher, our job is the most unpredictable job ever. Like you can't predict what's going to happen from day to day. It could be a fire drill. The Wi-Fi could go out. The copier could be jammed. 4 kids could be absent. You could have 36 seventh graders. Like one year, I had 36 seventh graders in the classroom. You might not have enough desks. You might not have enough books. Like expect the unexpected and try to be flexible as possible. Be flexible and not rigid because you're gonna have to adapt. And you're gonna have to adapt kind of quick because you have a full captive audience who's looking at your every move. So be prepared. Have backup plan B activities. Remember, you're gonna have to reset every quarter. You're gonna have to revamp and change things on a daily basis. There may be new students or students who don't show up till after Labor Day, and you're gonna face technical issues. So just expect the unexpected and don't be too hard on yourself. So now let's talk about week 0 and beyond. Our last section. What are you gonna do to get yourself ready for the entire school year? So you made it through week 0. Now what? So first and foremost, remember, be honest with yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. The world is hard enough on us. You don't need to beat yourself up. The world beats us up enough. We don't need to beat our own self up. So don't be honest with yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. Make realistic goals. If you can't make a deadline, just let people know, like, I can't make it. Like, can I extend this deadline? I was so surprised by how many times when I just asked, can I extend the deadline, people were willing to work with me. Make sure that if you're a new teacher or new to a school or new to a subject area, it's like riding a bike. The first time you get on the bike, you don't just like ride it like, wow, and if you do, that should be a viral YouTube video because that's pretty good. But most people, they get off balance, they fall down, they scrape their knees, but they get back on the bike until they master it. It's the same concept with teaching. Like, just keep trying. The more you try, the better and better you're going to get. But the first time, it's going to be rough. And make sure that you don't do too much. Say no to things. Like, look at your schedule. If you're starting to feel burnout, stressed out, what can you remove off your plate? Maybe you're doing too much. Maybe you don't need to do that extracurricular activity. Like, just don't burn yourself out. Also, be honest with your students. It's okay to apologize. It's okay to say, my bad, I messed this up. That's good for students to see that you're willing to apologize. Or, yesterday I was really having a bad day. I was stressed out, had some issues going on at home. I'm sorry if I was yelling at you. Like, it's okay to show yourself in a human way, but never apologize for instruction. First and foremost, never apologize for instruction. Like, that means, like, if students have to answer questions at the end of the chapter, they got to answer questions at the end of the chapter. Never say, oh, I'm so sorry that I know it's just so much work that we have to answer these questions, but I guess we have to do it. No, like, This is what we have to do. We're here to work. We're here to become better students. So we're going to answer these questions. It makes us better scholars. It gets us ready for high school, college, the next grade. Never apologize for instruction. Have high expectations and keep things as simple as possible. Remember, my daughter's 3. She watches Sesame Street every morning. It's the same schedule on Sesame Street every single day. Elmo comes on and talks for a little while. They have some random issue with the Muppets. Then they're going to do the letter of the day and do stuff focused on the letter. Then they're going to do the number of the day, do stuff focused on the number. And then they're going to come back to Elmo and whatever's going on in his world. But it's the same thing every day. That's how your classroom should be. Keep it simple and maintain structure. And be honest with your coworkers. It's okay to say, I'm sorry I was late, or be transparent. Put yourself in their shoes, and it's okay to say no. And keep in mind, with your coworkers, even though they might be that veteran teacher, the principal is your boss. Figure out who's your boss, and that's who you need to prioritize and listen to first. The 4 people to me that are the most important to partner with is your principal, the custodian, the lunch lady, and the school clerk or office manager. Those 4 people have your back the most as a teacher. The other teachers will help you and stuff like that, but you want to get in with those people because you're going to need them the most. All right, so here's some more things we need to think about after week 0. You might have field trips. Here's a sample field trip slip form if you want to use it. The school discipline plan might not be where they just take students right away if you kick them out. I've had tons of times where kids were fighting and they brought both kids back right away to the classroom, or kids were fighting and no one came at all to help. Like, what is your plan for this? You need to have maybe some de-escalation techniques, sensory activities. Like a glitter jar is a great sensory activity where students just look at glitter literally in a jar. I use restorative practice circles. I recommend using those. If you're interested, click either one. Remember, you might have IEP meetings. That's going to take you out the classroom. So you need to have work for the students to do while you're at those meetings. What does after school look like? Where do those students go? How are they dismissed? That's something to think about. Also, school events. How does your school celebrate holidays? It might be like a parent night, a STEM night, an art night. All these school events impact you because as a teacher, you might have to be there. So you want to have that planned out. And if your students have to sing that random poem or song for the school assembly, you want to have that ready as well. And most importantly, number 1 is grading. Think about that now, because I remember my first year as teaching, I didn't think about grading. I didn't realize how much paperwork teachers have to keep up with. We really have to manage a lot of paperwork. And I was bringing home every single sheet, trying to grade every single sheet. You can't do it. So you have to think about what things are practice, what things am I going to just check but not put in the grade book, and what things am I actually going to put in the grade book. It's important to think about that ahead of time because students want to know, and it helps you too not to feel so overwhelmed. You also can think about what are some assignments that I can have my students exchange and grade as well, because kids love to grade each other's work. They really do. So think about that. And if you need help with grading support, I included this article that helps you kind of get organized with how you're going to grade and set up your classroom. Every school probably has committees and activities and tons of things you can sign up for. But remember, it's okay to say no, or you can eventually work up to those committees. But if you're just starting out, remember, keep it simple. Lesson plans are important. I included a sample whole group lesson plan here and a sample small group instruction. Lesson plan. Most importantly, you want to stay on time with your lessons. You don't want your due now to go. If your due now is more than 10 minutes, you're behind. Like, it should be quick, easy, and getting done so you can actually get to the lesson. I love including a hook in my lesson, something that catches their attention, makes them want to learn, whether it's a game, a challenge question, a short video. All these little hooks, it's kind of like fishing. Like, you throw out the hook, you catch the fish, and once you got the fish, you got the fish. So you want to just have that hook that gets them engaged and excited about what they're learning for the day. And a lot of teachers don't model. I shouldn't say that. I used to not model. I can only speak for myself. I thought it was very boring. I thought the kids would think I was boring. So I never modeled for them like what I needed them to do and what I wanted them to do. And then I learned, probably after teaching like 8 years, how important modeling is. It's important to take time and not just teach them, this is how you multiply, but model for them, like think aloud, how am I thinking through solving this work? How am I thinking through this work that I'm doing? Everyone needs somebody to show them how to do something. I mean, if you just tell somebody to do it, they might get it. But if you show them and show them how you're thinking through the process, there's a higher chance that that light bulb will go off. Again, I had a weekly set schedule. I kept it the same every single week, pretty much. I already gave the Sesame Street analogy. It's the same for your classroom. Kids love structure. Keep your structure. Like on Mondays, I gave out missing work in the newsletter and the intro of the lesson. It wasn't perfect, but I would try my best to kind of flow this way. Friday, I always gave out a quiz. Tuesday, I did a think aloud about the lesson we're learning. And use Kahoot. It's a great review activity that students love. Everyone loves it. So use it. It's free. Well, they have a free version, I should say. Here's some templates that never failed, always work for me. Here's some sample do nows. Just make a copy, use them yourself. The Frayer model is great for vocabulary. And again, I talk about determine your own grade. I love this. It's a project-based learning activity. You can change things up to make them suit your needs, but it's a great way to review at the end of a unit as well. And there's tons of activities that you can just include. You can make it digital or you can make it physical or a mix of the two. But once you get your students trained on this, a lot of students like it and they like working independently. The KWL, we all know this, is what you know about the topic, what you want to learn about the topic, and then you can write what you learn. Tried and true technique that's been working for years. Also, make sure to streamline your Google Classroom, especially after week 0. If you're not going to grade something, don't make it an assignment. Make it a material, because when you make something an assignment, it goes in that child's missing work report in Google Classroom. It also goes in the grade book, and it can lead to confusion because students don't know what they really have, what they have to do, what they don't have to do, and it can just reduce clutter. So if you're not going to grade it, or it's just like a video, or maybe you can make it a question, I recommend changing up your topics here and don't make everything an assignment. You want to have a missing work report. I've included 2 examples for you. Just think about that, because typically most schools aren't just going to allow you to put in zeros for a child missing work. That's just not going to work. You're going to have some type of system in place for how you're going to get the child their missing work, give them time to make up any work they've missed, and give them time to kind of get their grade up. So you don't want to just give out zeros. That just doesn't work. You need to actually give them time to correct their mistakes. If they get a bad grade, what's your system for allowing them to redo something? Think of those things. I like to communicate with parents. I use templates within Gmail, which is an easy way where you can have pre-created emails that you send out. There's 2 ways you can do it. When you go into a Google Doc, you can always just go to docs.new to open up a new Google Doc. But now what they have here, you can go to docs.new, slides.new, forums.new, sheets.new, and that opens up anything new within Google, and it saves you time. But if you're doing, this is just a demo, but you can do a couple templates just within Google Docs. You can go to insert, and when you go to insert, there's an option here for building blocks. Building blocks they're pre-set up templates. So here's an email draft. And if you want to, you can preset this up about maybe missing assignments. You are missing. Okay, so here's my template. I put in Ms. Blake. Okay, you're missing 5 assignments. You can put the child's email address here. You can put the subject here. And then you can literally click on this preview in Google button. And when you click on that, it's going to open up Gmail for you. and it's going to put it there, and you can send it to the person right then and there, or you can schedule send by clicking on this and have it sent at a particular time. So I like the new email draft. That's a great easy template. You can have like 6 of these set up and just quickly go to this one document and send them out. So you go to file, you're going to go to insert, building blocks, email draft. Also, within your Gmail, you can set up templates. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So you go to gmail.com and you can go to your settings. So what a template looks like is, if I go to compose, I have my 3-dot menu here, and I have all these templates that I've already created that I can just right away send to people. Like, here's one. We miss you. Hello, you are absent today. We miss you. Please make sure to get your missing work in and turn it in 3 days. Boom. All I had to do was click on it, and I can just put the child's email and click send. That's an example of a template. But in order to do that, you have to have them set up. So how to set it up is you go to your settings here. You're going to go to see all settings, and you're going to go to advanced. Once you go to advanced, you're going to go to templates here, and you're going to want to enable them. So I repeat, you go to settings, you go to advanced, and you're going to go to enable. And once you click on enable, you're going to click on save changes. So once you click on save changes, whenever you compose an email, now when you click on the 3-dot menu, you'll have the option for a template. So what you can do is type the template. And I used to have templates that were positive notes, because students do check their email, and that's a quick template to sit out that can be a positive note that a child can show their parent and encourage like positive behavior. So here's an example of one. You want to put in a subject here. And once you have it typed, then all you need to do is click on your 3-dot, go to templates, and you're going to go to save draft as template. Once you click on that, you can scroll over here, and you're going to be able to save as new template, and you give it a title and you save. So now if I compose, like, let me go back to my inbox. If I compose an email, I can just go to the 3-dot menu here, look at my templates, and there's Rockstar. I just click on it, and there's my message, and put it to the child and send. So that's what I mean. These are quick ways to cut down on your communication, cut down on the amount that you have to type, and save yourself time and energy. Also, remember, you want to bookmark things on your computer. The easiest way to bookmark is just if you're on a website that you like, you can just click on the star here, and it'll be bookmarked. And you can actually add your bookmarks to folders. So I'm going to show that to you now. So basically, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have your bookmark bar set up. So you're going to click your 3-dot menu here, and you're going to go to bookmarks. When you go to bookmarks, you want to make sure that show bookmarks bar is checked, because if you don't have that, then you're not going to be able to see your bookmarks here right on your window and won't be able to quickly click on them. So then from there, if I want to, I can create a folder called, let's say, back to school. So I can right click here, and I'm going to click on add folder. When I add a folder, I'm going to put back to school. Okay, once I do that, I can click save. Now let's say I want to save this presentation in there. I can click on the star here, which makes it bookmarked, and then I can select that folder. So let's find back to school, and I'm done. And now when I click on back to school, there's Be a Week Hero 0. So if you look at my folders, because some people have tons of bookmarks here, so that's why I recommend using folders, so you can put a lot of bookmarks inside of a folder, and then this doesn't get so cluttered. Another thing that you can do is pin a tab. So if you right click on any tab that you use all the time, like for instance, maybe you have an attendance system, ours is called Aspen, you want to bookmark that or pin it, so you can click pin. And when you click pin, it'll automatically show up every time you open up your browser. So that's why I recommend to pin websites as well that you use on a daily basis. And you can just, if you want to unpin it, you click on it to pin, and you right click, and you can unpin it as well. And that website will always be there. Like some of the things that I pinned was a timer. that I like is I use timers a lot in my classroom, especially kids love to race, kids love challenges, and you want to time things so they don't just go on forever. So I just had a timer always pinned up here and I could just quickly open it every single day. Remember, if a child does not feel connected to you or your classroom or the group, they're not going to participate. They're not going to hear what you're saying. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's extremely important for you as an educator to consider because it might be more to the reason why that child's not motivated. So you want to make sure that they feel connected and loved. They feel like you care for them. That's important. I recommend using GoGuardian for your digital classroom, especially if you have laptops. You can easily set that up. Here's some free incentives. I don't like to pay for incentives. I know the Dollar Tree has went up in cost, so it's not $1, it's $1.25. So try to think of free incentives. Like kids really love free time. I use coupons in my classroom. They were easy. Like a coupon is like bring a snack to class. Like if they earn it, they earn it and they're free. All you have to do is copy them and recollect them. I use the 5 compliment incentive. If they got 5 compliments from someone who was not me, they can have 5 minutes of free time. That's like an easy free incentive that keeps them on task in the hallway. You want to try to keep things as simple as possible. And I highly recommend survey your students. Like find out what do they want to work for? What are some things that they like to use? Because once they're involved and they feel like they were able to choose, again, going back to choice, you get more buy-in. Here's some class morale building things. I always had a business meeting where we talked about classroom jobs, we talked about grades, we talked about attendance. We talked about, see right here, we talked about how does it work for F's in the classroom. It's a great way to kind of refresh on things that you might assume that they know, but once school really gets started, some of the things you tell them in the beginning, they forget. So I always did business meetings. I did Fun Friday once a month where we had like a Fun Friday. Maybe it was a STEM-based day that they worked towards. If you like points, this is a points matrix that you could use for like if they're not following direct, like they get a certain amount of points, and then if they do certain things, they lose points. And always do student of the week or student of the month. It keeps a high morale and it gives kids something to work towards. I also had, kind of regulations or rules around how you got to be student of the week. Not everyone should be student of the week. If you're missing assignments, if you're disrespectful towards a teacher, if you're absent a lot. So now they know how they can work towards it. And then I also had a most improved student too, because a lot of times my most improved student will work towards becoming student of the month or week. Before you know it, they would be student of the month. So that's a great incentive. Here's some engaging activities that I always use in my classroom. I also included a sample choice board activity, which is back to determine your own grade. But these are great websites that you could use in your classroom that kids love. If you've never heard of Flippity, it's designed by a teacher. There's so many teacher-based templates here that you can use in your classroom. Like, look, a word scramble. Kids love word scrambles. And they're fun to make and great vocabulary building. So check out Flippity. I love that website. Also, Toy Theater is a really fun website that kids love. They have digital manipulatives. I like Custom Cursor. Kids like when your mouse looks different. This HyperDocs one has tons of free Google HyperDocs that you can use in your classroom. But in conclusion, these are the 4 things I think are most important. Build trust, not only with your students, but also with their parents. A lot of parents have had bad classroom school experiences, and you want to build trust with them because they're already coming in like, what is this teacher going to be about? Are they going to have issues with my child? So it's important that you call them constantly. When it's pickup time, be that teacher that goes outside and talks to parents outside. Whatever it takes to kind of build that connection and relationship. That's something that I found that at one school I was at, the teachers went outside to the parents and talked to the parents during pickup time. And that's a great way to nip behavior problems in the bud, Find out if that child is picked up and walk that child to their car and tell them what happened that day. Like, it is a great way to connect quickly and efficiently. Make sure you plan things out. You don't have to do everything all the time. Like on Mondays, I always tried to come early. On Thursdays, I tried to stay late. On Fridays, I came right on time and left right on time. Like, figure out which days are you going to grade? Which day is your lesson plan due? Like, think about that when you're planning out your day. And remember, be efficient. Make that priority list. Who's the top priority? The principal. If the principal tells you to do stuff, that's what you need to do first. That is your priority. So go in the order of that, in the order of need. Like, some stuff you just might not get to because there's always something you have to get to. So prioritize what should come first, second, third, etc. And remember, you're not an island. You're not alone. There's somebody always out there to help you. So reach out for help. If it's no one at your school you can talk to, there's tons of teacher groups, other things, resources that are out there to help you. So just stay committed and don't give up, because everybody's been in your shoes and everybody has had a hard time. So people are there out there to help you. Now, here's my Blake basics to getting back to the school. My students are back. I'm back. Now what? So the first thing you need to do is be prepared. Plan. Have plan Bs. Secondly, be warm but strict. Students need to know that you care for them, but you're not going to take anything from them. Remember something Victor Rios, he's one of my favorite people, but he said, I care for you, but I can't carry you. So it's important to balance that love and accountability. Be warm, but be strict. Be consistent. Whatever your systems are, just stick to them. Be organized. Be engaging. We all have been in presentations that have been like, oh, like, when will this end? They're just literally reading the slide. This is so boring. Like, you don't want your students to feel the same way. Like, you want to be engaging. You want to learn new things and make sure that you're excited about what you're teaching. Be resourceful. There's so many resources out here, especially on the internet. So many free resources that you can use that can make your life easier. And that's what's most important. Make your life easier. It's okay if you're not the person who created the assignment, as long as you're the person who teaches that assignment and lesson well. That's what's most important. Be flexible, be professional, be realistic with yourself, and be kind to yourself. That's the most important one. Be kind to yourself. And remember, you're the superhero. This is Be a Week Hero, Be a Week Zero Hero. You're the hero here. You're the one that's in that classroom every day with your students. You always, that's one thing about being a teacher. You always are forced to be on. You always have an audience. So don't be hard on yourself. Remember, you're the superhero. You're doing great work. And I hope you have a wonderful school year. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for engaging with my presentation. And if you have any questions, just email me at blakebasics33@gmail.com, or you can head to my website. Bye. Thanks again.